Welcome to the Week 7 Fantasy Flex main slate podcast here on the Fantasy Flex feed. I am your host, Chris Raybon, joined as always by my dude, Sean Kerner. And Sean, I told you, Week 6 wasn't over yet. We have more bad luck with our props last night.
Yeah, like you said, I was all excited to move on to Week 7. You're like, oh, by the way, the tonight's game is still Week 6. So I got to have that brutal Manny Sanders loss on the prop. So been a frustrating past few weeks, still hovering around break even. I've been crushing spreads and totals though. It's like 70% on the year. So maybe Stuckey and I should switch places for a couple weeks because he's in first place in our fantasy football league. He's undefeated. So he's tearing up in fantasy. I'm tearing up in spreads and totals, but I think Week 7 all gets right in the world, and we're going to turn things around here.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Have a little.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking about that, but I just want to shout out Stuckey. He is 6-0 in our fantasy league, so good stuff.
Yeah, and shout out to Stuckey for who we beat to go 6-0.
Yours
truly. And if I had started Alex Collins over Tyler Lockett in my flex, I would have won by like a point or something.
Oh,
like that.
Man. Yeah.
So,
I promise I'll beat him in Week 8. I think it is. I'm going to set a line on that and a total, and we're going to get some action on that, baby. By the way, I was able to add Mike Gesicki for free on like Friday this week. What the hell kind of league are we in? Where I could just
I had Dawson Knox because I had him I added Dawson Knox and Khalil Herbert for free. So,
Yeah.
Some people are sleeping, but you know how it goes. Let's get into we'll go through the DFS main slate for this week. We'll talk about guys we're high or low on in our rankings at each position. But let's start off with the Thursday night game, which got a lot more interesting because we have the Browns at home facing the Denver Broncos. We knew Kareem Hunt was going to miss, but now it's been reported that Nick Chubb out as well with a calf injury. So we're looking at a backfield of D'Ernest Johnson, former Ram John Kelly, and dual threat running back wide receiver rookie Demetric Felton. So before we even get into like our captain spot, our cheat codes, I just wanted your thoughts, kind of your updated thoughts on this backfield without Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, like I said, I think D'Ernest Johnson is Nick Chump this week. I think he will take over most of the work that Chubb and Hunt are leaving behind. So I'm projecting him right now for 13.5 carries, 2 receptions. I mean, let's remember he is a pretty good pass catching back. He's been in this role before. He's been on the Browns for 3 years now, and he's stepped up when needed, at times in the past. So I think they lean on him here. Whereas Felton, I think Felton has the higher ceiling. Clearly, he's probably going to dominate the passing work. But the Browns have been using him exclusively as like a wide receiver, kind of scat back kind of role since training camp. But certainly he could step up and get 8 to 10 carries here as well. I'm curious if you think, is Felton going to be the more popular play here, or do you think people are going to be on D'Ernest Johnson? Because I think D'Ernest Johnson might be under-rostered. Just based on what I've been hearing.
Yeah, I mean, the early returns on fantasy Twitter and even in pricing with Felton being higher, it's like this is going to be another one of those situations where it's like we're the buzzkills and like everyone's like, oh, it's Demetric Felton season and like let's go, let's get him in there. And then it's like, actually, guys, like it's probably going to be D'Ernest Johnson. And here's my reasoning, and I mean, I might even have a more contrarian take than you do, but the way I'm looking at it is like this. D'Ernest Johnson's been in the system for a long time, a couple of years now. He's played special teams. They trust him in all aspects of the game. Now, Felton, you mentioned, he's been playing mostly wide receiver. So if it were a Sunday game, I'd say, okay, Felton may be involved as like in that Kareem Hunt role. But it's a Thursday game. How ready are you really going to get this guy to play heavy snaps at running back? I think that we may actually see John Kelly be the number 2 back. I'm not kidding though. Like, because Kelly, remember, he's had a couple of double-digit carry games in his career with the Rams. He's been in this system for a while now. Once the Rams let him go, I believe it was last year. I think he's been on this practice squad with this team for a while now too. So I think that you could see a 1-2 punch of Johnson with Kelly actually spelling Johnson and Felton. I still think he'll be more involved as a back than he was in the first 6 weeks, but it might just be a couple extra plays. And this could be a situation where, like, remember when Kyle Shanahan lost all his backs, and instead of using, like the other running backs on the roster, you got a wide receiver, a carry here, and another guy carry here. Like, I think we could kind of see that with the Browns if we, like, I don't think it's just, there's a lot of ways Felton may not get like 8 to 10 carries, I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, believe me, I wish he was a guy we could target here, and I get the hype, but yeah, he might be a guy worth fading. So I like the Kelly call. I mean, let's face it, it'll be John Kelly or Johnny Stanton, the fullback, that break this slate, right? Like, we know it's going to happen. And the Browns, they have arguably the best offensive line in the league, but they're banged up right now. So Wills, Treader, or Conklin, like one or all three of those guys could miss here. It's just an ugly slate. So we should know more, by Thursday. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be key to figure out this running back situation for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we should just continue a continuation of our waiver episode. We're still kind of in line with with Johnson being that number one priority, right? And waivers with this news, right? Okay,
yeah. Unfortunately, again, like I said, I wish it was Felton. And the thing with Felton, he's not really an Antonio Gibson project where he's a receiver and they're trying to convert him to a running back. It was actually the opposite. I mean, at UCLA, I think he had over 200 plus carries in the past 2 seasons. So I think he can certainly get 8 to 10 carries if they needed, but just they haven't been using him that way initially. So like you said, on a short week, I just don't know how they're going to get him ready. But it wouldn't surprise me if he goes off here. Just I think he is worth fading in the spot.
Yeah, like my long-term, or not my long-term, I guess better term would be best case scenario for Felton is, remember Ty Montgomery a couple years ago? When he was a receiver with the Packers, and then everyone got hurt, and then they just kind of needed him to use him in that dual role. I think that's kind of his ceiling. Or you could compare it a little bit to maybe Cordero Patterson this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I don't want to be like blasphemous, because Cordero, we know he's an RB1 this week. So
maybe like 2020 Cordero Patterson.
Right. Or the Patriot Cordero Patterson. When that year he had like a couple of starts. Yeah. But it looks like, I mean, he's priced the highest of the 3 backs in that backfield. I think he's going to be a little bit too highly rostered. And it's not like he's a smash play. Like, it's not like he's guaranteed a workload and you're just fading him based on efficiency. Like, he could get like 1 or 2 touches still in this game. So probably a fade for me, but let's talk about the captain spot. I mean, it's pretty ugly when you don't have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I mean, Odell Beckham was banged up in and out of that game. Yep. Baker Mayfield, we don't know for sure if he's going to play as we record this on Tuesday afternoon. So are we just captaining the Broncos defense and moving on?
Oh, yeah. You could certainly go there. And we don't know. Jarvis Landry might return. So just when it comes, and David Njoku's questionable, just when it comes to the Browns, we might have some targets come Thursday, but right now we just have no clue. So when it comes to who we're going to attack, right now, certainly Broncos players. I know where you're going with yours, so I won't steal your thunder. So I think, Noah Fant would certainly be a good captain. He's on fire right now, but he'll be popular. So I'm going to have to go with Javonte Williams here. I was hyping him up a bit last week. I don't want to be 1 week early and then jump off the train. I'm going to stick with him here. He finally outcarried Melvin Gordon last week for the first time since week 1. And I think with Gordon banged up, it would not surprise me on the shorter week if they give Javonte a bigger role this week. It would certainly make sense. So I kind of want to be on him before the market catches up. And I think this will be the first primetime game for the Broncos. So once people see Javonte in action, maybe they'll see how explosive he is. I don't know if you saw his rush last week where he leaped over the defender. But he's been really good at forcing missed tackles this year. He has by far the highest missed tackle rate from all running backs with over 30 plus carries. So I think he's going to be special the rest of the season. So I want to be in on him here. And, when it comes to the Broncos, they have been really run heavy in their 3 wins. They've averaged 31.5 carries per game in their 3 wins. And then really pass heavy in their 3 losses. They've only averaged 18.5 carries in their 3 losses. And with all the injuries on the Broncos side, it would not surprise me, or on the Brown side, excuse me. It would not surprise me if the Broncos went out right here and this ends up being a sneaky positive game script for Javonte Williams. So I love the idea of captaining him here and, stacking him with the Broncos defense.
Yeah, I initially when we kind of did the outline, I was going to go with, and I think you're referring to Cortland Sutton as the captain. But like with all this carnage on the Browns, I think I would. I mean, if I actually like Dearness Johnson in a captain spot because he essentially lets you do whatever you want with the rest of your lineup.
True.
And you kind of like, I agree. I think some Broncos running backs are another way to go, but I think you want the running games on both sides because the bottom line is the Browns are still a favorite. They're at home. They're still probably going to close as a favorite, even with all this crazy news. And you're looking at a Broncos defense that's now just 20th in run defense DVOA. They started the year good, but remember they lost a couple of their run stopping linebackers. They just lost Alexander Johnson, who was, I believe, graded as the best run linebacker in the league this year. So they're not quite the same run D they were early in the year. It's a short week. They just gave up a ton of points to the Raiders. So, they're going to be tired. I mean, this is a spot where I think, you might want to leave some salary on the table and go with a guy like Johnson, unless you think the Browns are going to get shut out. I mean, do we really think that Baker Mayfield is going to throw like 2-3 touchdowns on like a
probably not
bum shoulder? Yeah. So that kind of takes out, even with the Browns banged up in the run game, that still kind of takes out like Beckham and all those guys. So it really just leaves me Johnson as the guy that probably leads the Browns in touches. And because Gordon and Williams are still splitting touches, Johnson could lead the game in touches.
Yeah.
So, he's going to be my guy. But I do like Javonte. I noticed that as well, that he's finally started to get more work than Gordon. He's looked so much better. Aside from that one run that Gordon had early in the year, that one long run, but
Gordon did look good on that run. I will give him credit for that.
But Williams, it's just Williams. It's the mistakes with Williams. He's had a couple of fumbles and things like that. So it could go either way. But you made a good point about just the game scripts because even Sutton, it's kind of affected, not crazily, but in 3 wins, he's averaging 5 catches, 70 yards, and then he's had no touchdowns. But in the losses, 6 catches, 87 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Both of his touchdowns have come in trailing game scripts, including that one late against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. So, probably going to be a lower scoring game. I like just taking Johnson, and especially if people are going to kind of be a little bit down on him because they, everyone wants to get in Felton and things like that. So, Johnson for me. What about for your cheat codes?
So, like you said, this is going to be an ugly game. So I do consider Javonte Williams and Dearness Johnson as the cheat codes here. But let's, scrape the bottom of the barrel here. And Kendall Hinton on the Broncos side, arguably the worst quarterback in NFL history. But
Ben DiNucci has something to say about that.
I don't know. Do you remember that game last year? Remember
keep
having to throw away stats.
Unfortunately,
he was so bad. But the past couple of games, he's run a healthy routes run rate at 66% and then 71% last week. So he posted, 5 catches for 37 yards, no touchdowns. That's obviously not going to win you anything on a main slate, but when it comes to a showdown slate, in a game like this, that could win it. So I like him. On the Brown side of the ball, I think Anthony Schwartz, he's their deep threat guy. One of those guys where it would not surprise me if he doesn't catch a ball in this game, but if he does, it could be for a long touchdown. So he's a guy I'll be eyeing as well. And then the sneakiest of sneaky plays would be if Baker Mayfield is active and starts this game, throw in Case Keenum. Baker Mayfield's doing with a shoulder injury. He could re-aggravate it early in the game. And then Case Keenum can play out the rest of the game. In these showdown slates, sometimes you have to get creative to win these things. So I think playing Case Keenum, even when Baker Mayfield starts, throwing in a couple dart throws like that, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one that Case Keenum called because this is one of those slates for the Browns, especially that injuries could kind of dictate how this thing goes, and there could be guys coming in, at all the positions. So I like that one. Like Schwartz as well. Watching the game against the Cardinals, I kept thinking to myself like, they keep trying to make Anthony Schwartz a thing. Like they do.
It's
like I'm not saying it's worked. It hasn't really worked since week 1, but he gets returns, he gets routes, he gets air. He gets his air yards on against man coverage, which Denver plays a lot of man coverage. His ADOT is 27, so he might just need like one play.
Yeah. He's a 3rd round pick this year, so it's not surprising they want to get him involved. And ever since week 1, he hasn't done anything, but. Last week he was on the field 44% of the time on Baker dropbacks. So for a slate like this, you could do worse for sure.
Yeah, my cheat codes are going to be John Kelly. That's the first one because, again, he's pretty much min price. And we know the Browns have always used a committee. And D'Ernest Johnson, his career high in carries is 13. He had 95 yards. So again, that's why I think, we shouldn't just write him off. I think we should pay attention to him. But this could be just like a Hunt Chubb split again with Johnson in the lead and Kelly spelling him and Felton, he'll maybe getting, 5 touches instead of like 10. So Kelly, if he gets a touch around the goal line, or let's say Johnson, short week, he can't handle the big workload, because he also has played special teams. So it's not like he's just been sitting on the bench doing nothing for these 6 weeks. You could see Kelly go. So it's kind of like the Case Keenum, like a Case Keenum, John Kelly stack.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
We're just getting disgusting here, but this slate calls for disgusting. I mean, look at the matchup. But Kelly he's been on the Browns this whole time, right? I seem to remember him having a pretty good preseason. So he knows the playbook. He's not some free agent they just signed like yesterday kind of thing. Like, he knows the playbook. He could absolutely step in here. Yeah,
that's a great point because, again, I think the times where we whiff the most on these kind of uncertain calls is when we don't consider and when I say we, I mean as an industry.
Yeah.
I know we've been whiffing on some calls lately, so us too.
Everybody has.
No, I meant in the industry, what I think happens is we fail to consider how the organization thinks and what kind of goes on behind the scenes. And I think that's a great point, is that Kelly has been on the practice squad, which literally means he practices with the Cleveland Browns every week and every day. You know what I mean? Like this.
Yeah, no, it matters. It definitely matters.
He's in the building. He's training with the team. He's probably playing the scout team. He's probably their scout team, Nick Chubb, to be honest. There's some, their scout team, whoever the opponent big back is. You know what I mean? So Kelly, I think, is a viable guy. And one other guy I wanted to mention, since it is kind of a wide open slate, and my boy Ken, who I have met out here in Cali, one of my boys, he always asks me, like, who are the punt plays in DFS? And we talk about a bunch of them, but another one is Harrison Bryant. He's their third tight end. He's averaging a route on about 27% of the dropback. So that's not inconsequential for a guy that's pretty much minimum price. And especially with the way, number one, Njoku's been banged up, but number two, just the way the Browns have been rotating tight ends and kind of featuring different guys each and every week. Remember earlier this year, Bryant was split out as a wide receiver on certain plays. So this is a game where, if Bryant gets like one play action touchdown catch, close to the end zone, he probably hits value here. So just another guy I wanted to mention with Austin Hooper struggling. He had a couple drops, I think, last week. Njoku banged up. Bryant and another thing I think may happen with Mayfield banged up and with the O-line banged up, a lot of big personnel, a lot of 2 tight end and even 3 tight end.
3 tight end, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good call, especially if Landry and Odell are out, you could certainly see Bryant lining up in the slot again, or even Felton, actually. But there's a lot of different moving pieces if Beckham and Landry are out here. I mean, this slate is a disaster, let's face it.
Yeah, I'm telling you that John Kelly, Case Keenum, Browns D.
Love it.
That's the winning lineup. But all right, let's get into the main slate on the Action Network Fantasy Flex podcast presented by Prize Picks. Let's start with quarterback here. Sean, who are your top 5 initially heading into the week?
So despite all the teams on bye this week, it's a pretty standard top 5 minus Josh Allen. It's Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Tom Brady, and Jalen Hurts. Yeah,
I have Mahomes, Murray, Jackson, Brady, Hurts. I think I have Murray second, Jackson third. Houston, they're 17-point favorites, but this could be like the Cardinals could be like a 50 burger on Houston. So I'm gonna keep Murray here. I'm just so impressed with how Kyler's playing.
Are you projecting the Cardinals back up this week? Is it one of those weeks?
I haven't yet. I could though. I usually do it more for injuries, but this could be one of those weeks. But I just don't want to take anything out of Murray's projection.
True.
Like he's been just like that. The game against Cleveland really proved a lot because without Kingsbury, without your quarterback coach, it was just Kyler go out there and play, and he's playing. So love Kyler. Mahomes is still doing his thing. All right, so let's go to the slate and look at the quarterbacks that are in the high highest price range. It's Kyler, it's Mahomes, it's Brady. The one guy that's in the top 5 in pricing on the main slate that we didn't mention is Aaron Rodgers. Is he right outside of your top 5, or is he too highly priced this week for you?
No, he is just on the cusp. I believe he's my QB6. But when it comes to that price tag, I mean, he's $100 more than Lamar Jackson. So he's certainly a fade for me in DFS. But yeah, he's up there. He's my QB6.
All right, some guys or at least one player you're higher on than pricing or than the consensus at quarterback for week number 7.
Yeah, so I already mentioned about Lamar Jackson at 7,400. It's a bounce back game from him this week. He's a little bit too cheap. Last week the Chargers put up 0 fights, so he really didn't have to do much. They got all 3 of the veteran running backs a touchdown, which is nice. But I think he's going to bounce back here with a big game. This could be the first time he has Marquise Brown, Sammy Watkins, and Rashod Bateman. Oh, and Mark Andrews at his disposal. So I think we're going to be seeing, Lamar Jackson was on a torrid pace before last week. I think he'll bounce back here. So if I'm going expensive this week, I'm going with Lamar Jackson. Outside of him, though, it does open up. And this is a week where I'm willing to go cheap. And I like 2 quarterbacks from the same game, and that's Matt Ryan at 5,700 and Tua Tagovailoa at 5,500. This game, I think, could be a sneaky game to stack. So I'll be picking on these quarterbacks. We'll have to see what's up with these Dolphins cornerbacks. Both Xavier Howard and Byron Jones were out last week. So if one or both are out again this week, I'm going to love Matt Ryan even more. He gets Calvin Ridley back, possibly Russell Gage. Kyle Pitts looks like he's finally broken out, and Cordell Patterson, the ultimate Swiss Army knife. So I think there's a lot of stacking options for Matt Ryan here. Same thing with Tua. In that London game, he looked pretty sharp on a couple series. The Dolphins are leaning on the pass a lot right now. So if he gets back Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, he'll have a ton of stacking options. So I think that game and those quarterbacks, I think I'll be heavily invested in this week.
Yeah, I like to marry, since we're here at Action Network, I like to marry kind of what I think is projected game script wise is going to happen with the quarterbacks, and it really looks good for Matt Ryan. Going on the road, but coming off a bye. Road favorites off a bye are 64-33 against the spread since 2003. That's 66%. So
nice.
That means you come in on the road, you could see the Falcons outperform expectations, and usually that happens. You're going to be throwing it around when that happens on the road. So I do like Matt Ryan a lot, but I got to go with. I had in my initial projections, this guy had like a Matthew Friedman passing yardage projection for this week, and it was at 348, and this is Matthew Stafford. I've since lowered it, but this is Matthew Stafford revenge game. This is how can we not play Matthew Stafford this week against the Detroit Lions, who just have no cornerbacks, a very vanilla defense. This is the spot to play Matthew Stafford. Yeah, he's probably gonna come to Sean McVay and say let's not let up here. I want to look at this is the way you felt about Tom Brady against New England is probably the way I feel about Matthew Stafford, except New England actually has a good defense and Bill Belichick. Whereas
hopefully you don't have to deal with a monsoon here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But no, it's in LA. So unless we're dealing with a monsoon.
For some reason we have a dome here in LA. Of all places. But rain is obviously not a concern here.
Right. So this is where I would probably say if you're gonna go over on somebody this week just based on pure motivation or intangible factors, it's Matthew Stafford's passing yards.
I love this call. And when I was doing my initial projections, I did Jared Goff first, and I was like, oh, this is a Jared Goff revenge game. Yeah, baby. And then I thought, wait a minute, it's Matthew Stafford. It's also Sean McVay revenge game. He wants to stick it to Jared Goff. As horrible as that sounds, he does want to do that and prove he's been holding me back these past couple seasons. So it's a Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay revenge game. I agree. I think they won't let up. This is essentially what I was going with Tom Brady week. You can take Stafford here And I agree. I think he deserves a Matthew Freeman projection of like 350, 360 passing yards here. So love it.
But it's just funny that like I didn't even edit it. It was just like it came up as that.
Yeah.
It was like it started the week as that. So it's like I mean it's I wouldn't be surprised if he like catches a touchdown or something in this game. Wow. Like they'll do like the LA special.
Making some bold calls this week, but
you just know that he's been waiting. He's been waiting for this one, and the defense is non-existent. So Stafford's really the one guy that stood out to me. I do agree that there are options in the lower tiers. If I had a, I do like Ryan and Tagovailoa. We talked about them on the waiver podcast. So two more I'll mention because I think they'll be fairly lower rostered. Daniel Jones and Justin Fields are near the bottom of the pricing tiers this week. Daniel Jones, I don't think it's really matchup dependent with him. It's just sometimes he runs and he has success and sometimes he doesn't. And, it's just very random, but that's perfect for tournaments in DFS. And I think after the disastrous couple of weeks, one getting hurt, another just poor performance, people will be off him, but his prices come down to a great spot. And remember the upside he had, even in some tough matchups to start the year, he still put up numbers because of that running ability. And then Justin Fields, he's probably going to run more. We've seen that happen last week, and then going against Tampa Bay, he needs to be an extension of the run game. But also Tampa Bay has given up, top 6 numbers to opposing quarterbacks. So this might be the most pass-heavy script that Fields has seen yet. So I think those two guys are, and it's crazy because Ryan, Tagovailoa, Jones, and Fields are all bunched together in pricing, essentially. So I like those 4 guys. Probably 2 or 3 of them, if not all 4, should be lightly rostered, or there'll probably be like one popular one out of them. And I would guess it would be one of the 2 guys in the Atlanta-Miami game. So really like that little tier down there. If you're going down from Stafford Jackson.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the sweet spot. And I was going to mention Daniel Jones, but we need to know who's going to be available for him. And I had mentioned, he was looking good when Kadarius Toney was in the game. How could you not? And once he got hurt, that's when, it just went to shit. And I guess Daniel Jones admitted it. He said, like, our game plan was get the ball to Toney, and once he went down, they were just lost. So yeah, like if Toney's healthy this week, and Galladay's back, and they have Shepard back, like I think Daniel Jones is ready to erupt. So love taking him. Shouldn't be rostered heavily at all, especially after last week. So I think he's sneaky this week.
That's a terrible game plan, by the way. The guy that was checking in and out of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Week to week
yeah, let's build our game plan around him. But they didn't really. They had him and Sterling Shepard, right?
Build it around Sterling Shepard.
They kind of did. He got 10 catches. But get John Ross involved, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, he played less snaps than Colin Johnson. I don't like. It's just I never know how to project the Giants receiver starting a week. You just have to wait till everyone gets ruled out. Like, there's no way to know who's going to play how many snaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Carolina's having their own problems, so like him. But let's go to the prop for quarterbacks. What you got?
So I think you'll love this one. It's Justin Fields over under 210.5 passing yards against the Buccaneers. This is up on Prize Picks right now. So where are you going with this, over or under?
Ooh, I'm pretty in line with that. I'm gonna go over just because I think the game script is gonna kind of dictate it, and I think even though he's been a low volume quarterback thus far, I don't think it'll be crazy hard to go over it, especially if the Bucs score some points, because they're still gonna use some max protects, which gives him the opportunity, to stand in the pocket and look downfield for a guy like Darnell Mooney. And Tampa Bay is still very banged up in the secondary. So if you combine no real pressure, because they've been blitzing a lot and still haven't been getting pressure. And with a max protect, I think he's going to be able to hit some chunk plays, even if it's still not like a 40 pass game. So I'll go over. What about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line. I'm disappointed. I wanted this to be like too high, like 235, or stick with his baseline right now, which is like 190. So I'm in line with this, and if this would be his career high if he were to just hit this number. So I think it's a good line, and more importantly, this just means that maybe Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, even Cole Kmet might be in play this week. Last week when I was projecting Jalen Hurts for like 280 passing yards against the Buccaneers, I was getting Jalen Reagor sort of on that wide receiver 3 cuss, Quez Watkins. And then, when Jalen Hurts only throws for 115 yards, it kind of blows everything out the window. But I think Fields has his best game yet this week. And that guys like Allen Robinson, Mooney, It would not be surprising if they have a good game this week as well.
They're going over.
No, I'm in line here.
You got to make a pick. You can't get 210.5 in the box score.
I'm going to lean over here. I'm going to lean over. I'm not locking it in already, but I am leaning over.
The people want the pick.
Over.
even if it's just to fade us. They want
baby.
The pick.
Well, let me put it this way. Maybe I'm taking it over on an Allen Robinson or Mooney instead. But gotcha. I do like this over.
All right, let's go to running backs. Sean, your top 5 for week 7.
So I got Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, Darrell Henderson, and Jonathan Taylor. So pretty interesting towards the bottom half here, but so many running backs are on bye this week that it tends to get ugly this time of year.
Yeah, I got 4 out of those 5, a little different order. I got Henry, Kamara, Darrell Henderson, 3, nice. Joe Mixon, 4, and Aaron Jones, 5. I mean, these Lions are just inflating all of my Rams projections, as they should. But, Henderson's still getting over 70% of the carries, running a ton of routes as well. So I do think Sony Michel, this is one of those games where you could see Sony Michel mix in late. It would be because the Rams got a big, and I think Henderson, Stafford. I just think the Rams offense is in a smash spot here. So
how about just a couple, like just outside of the top 5? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
To see Chuba Hubbard, Leonard Fournette, and Cordell Patterson. Like, what were the odds of that heading into the season that I would have those 3 specifically in my top 10 at any point this year?
Yeah. Patterson's my RB10. I know Chuba's up there. I don't know if Fournette, I think, is still a little bit outside.
How is he not in your top 10 by now? I mean, it's insane.
He's 12. So he's right there. He's on the cusp.
Yeah, he's right there. Okay. I mean, Darrell Williams, Devontae Booker, Mike Davis are all on the fringe of RB1.
Yeah, I think it was Darrell Williams. Let me see that. Who I got?
Dearness Johnston is 16.
Yeah, I got Darrell Williams, my RB8. I mean, he's getting like 80% of the carries in that backfield. So there's a lot of guys, and they're not guys we usually.
It looks like a week 17, or I guess we should call it a week 18 kind of running back rankings this week, if I'm being completely honest. Like, it's insane right now.
So with that said, let's get into some of the guys we like, guys you're higher on in consensus, just guys you think are great values in DFS. I know I got a number of them, so feel free to, take whoever you want, but who you got?
Yeah. So let me start off with DeAndre Swift at 6K against the Rams, being plus 15 or plus 18, whatever they are right now. It really doesn't matter when it comes to Swift because he's the pass catching back. Goff loves to target him, especially when they're trailing. I mean, he leads the team in targets when the Lions are trailing by 7 or more. So this is, a perfect game script for him. Last week, he actually saw 76% of the rush attempts. That was probably due to Jamal Williams dealing with a hip injury. But, if he were to become a workhorse back, he has top 5 potential, just given his receiving upside. And, he's the goal line back as well. So, love Swift here in the negative game script. I think he's too cheap, just given how well he's played this year. And then I love taking these running backs that are in just insanely positive game scripts. And that's Sony Michel at 4,200. You could certainly see the Rams up by a ton in the second half, and they just give Sony Michel, the 4-minute offense, all the work at the end of the game, where he could hit value in just the second half alone. So like sprinkling him into GPPs, and then James Conner at home against the Texans. I mean, if there were ever a James Conner game script, this would be it. So he has 64% of the carries between he and Chase Edmonds when the Cardinals are up by 7 or more points. And then it drops to 53% in all other scenarios. So I think this will be a heavy James Conner game, especially with, Chase Edmonds dealing with a shoulder injury. It would not surprise me if they just let him kind of rest up in the second half if they're up a ton. So love James Conner as well. And then just last but not least, got to wrap it up with Chuba Hubbard at 6,100 against the Giants. The Panthers are on a 3-game losing streak. They got to mix it up. And according to Matt Rule, they need to run more. He said, we're going to redefine who we are going forward and run the ball. He wants to run it, 30 to 33 times a game. Whatever you say, Matt Rule, but I'm going to take him for his word. So I think Chuba Hubbard could see 20 plus touches here. Love him in a very thin week at running back. So he's another guy I'm going to be targeting heavily as well.
It's interesting too, and I love Hubbard. I think he's my RB6 right now. It's interesting that it's like a thin week at running back in fantasy, but it's actually a pretty great week in DFS because all of the guys in the top 10 are pretty cheap. Yep. So it's like one of those weird weeks where it's actually like easier to make a DFS lineup here than it is to just, kind of find these guys in fantasy. So yeah, like all those guys, mentioned Henderson and Mixon on the high end already. I think those guys are underpriced for, they have running back 1 overall upside on this slate. And, they're right outside that top 5 in pricing. So love those 2 guys. Darrell Williams, he's a top 10 running back for me this week, going against the Titans on a short week. Williams got pretty much, all of the carries in the backfield. J.D. McKissic would play about 1/3 of the pass down snaps, but wasn't really a factor in the run game. And I think that's a good sign this week against the Titans defense that had to run around a lot, kind of just keeping Josh Allen in check. And then they had the big, emotional stop at the end. I think this could be a little bit of a letdown for them. So like Williams, Devontae Booker, I know he got vultured on a touchdown, but he's another guy who he got 80% of the carries in the backfield for the Giants last week, ran a route on over half the dropbacks as well. So he's getting that, pretty much in line with that Saquon Barkley usage for the most part. Is Booker. So like him. And then some guys to monitor. Antonio Gibson looks very questionable for this week. So JD McKissic is a guy that would then become valuable, especially against the Packers. He might be valuable anyway, just because of the, they're 9.5 point underdogs in Green Bay. And also Jaret Patterson. If Gibson's out, that was the preseason star. I have him stashed in a couple of leagues and on a couple of best ball rosters. So have to mention him in case Gibson's out. We'll obviously know more later in the week, but love Jaret Patterson in that spot if Gibson misses.
Yeah, if Gibson's out, Patterson will probably inherit most of that role. But yeah, I think given the game script, it's probably J.D. McKissic. And if you look at the Washington schedule the next few weeks, if Gibson does end up missing a few games, it sucks for Patterson because they're probably going to be in a negative game script against Packers this week, possibly next week against Broncos, and then they face the Buccaneers after that. So it's just a bit unfortunate because I don't know if Patterson's going to be involved in the passing game at all. So he's going to need, a positive game script. So yeah, I'm with you on the JD McKissic call here though.
Yeah. And a couple of other disgusting ones. And these are like super contrarian. Maybe if games just go completely backwards than we expect. But Mark Ingram, at 4,400. He's been averaging 18 touches a game over the past couple of games. Cardinals giving up over 5 yards per carry to running backs. We just want volume. That's what we want in DFS. And Michael Carter. The Patriots beat the wheels off the Jets in the first matchup, but Carter's under 5K on DraftKings, and he's getting about 60% of the carries in the backfield. And he's starting to be like separate as that lead back, and they're coming off the bye as well. So it could be a spot where we see Carter with his biggest workload of the year. Now that they've had a bye, he's had a chance to rest up, maybe get past that initial rookie wall. So I like taking rookies out of buys too. That's something I don't know if there's definitive data on it, but I've just remembered, over the past few years playing DFS, that it tends to work out well. The rostership tends to be down a little. And we kind of forget that, this is probably the time where coaches are able to kind of coach these guys up the most and get them ready for a bigger role down the stretch. So Carter's another guy that I would look to, because you're gonna need some cheap contrarian options, because even the top guys are cheap. So you're not going to be able to just go with like the top 1 or 2 cheap guys. You might need to dig a little deeper this week because it's all over the place at running back. I mean,
yeah, so and that's a great point. And I think that of all weeks, this would be the week to really spend up a wide receiver, because that's where it's really top heavy. I mean, we're about to talk about receivers, but you have 3 sets at the top and then it's sort of wide open. So this would be a week to kind of get these like cheap running backs that are still in like workhorse roles and then really spend up at wide receiver this week.
Yep. All right. Who do we got for our running back prop?
So let's go with Myles Gaskin, total rushing and receiving yards. They're at home against the Falcons. And unfortunately, with so many running backs on buys, he's on that sit start cusp. So let's try to figure him out. But I have his total rushing and receiving yards at 50.5. And I don't feel good about it. Oh, you're going over. Okay.
Yeah, I have a mean projection around 59. I have him 8 carries for 32 yards and about 3.2 catches for 27.
I'm like right in line with you. That's crazy.
Yeah, so the median obviously is a little lower. So I get why you said it at 50.5. Yeah. You probably take off 4 or 5 yards for each of those. But I have him. I mean, what are your percentages for his workload? I have him at about 43% of the backfield carries and 40% of routes per drop back.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mystery, right? Is he has such a low floor because they've been just doing the hot hand approach. So I have him around 45. I am around 40% actually.
Yeah.
And routes run. And then when it comes to rushing, it dipped down to 29% last week. So yeah, I'm probably right around 40% as well. He's one of those backs that he still has a high ceiling. I still consider him to be the best running back on the team. I say that cautiously, but just like I said, going into the season, we can't trust Brian Flores. So he has a really low floor. So that's why I think just of all weeks, it's more important than ever to kind of get him right. So it sounds like we're in line, and so where do you have him ranked? Because I have him like RB26,
RB25 and half PPR.
Yeah. So he's right there. Yeah. I think you got a plan this week, huh?
I mean, I would like not to, but yeah, if you, the thing is, I mean, with all this carnage, there are some better options as we've just talked about, but I think he is a guy probably in DFS. Actually, it's intriguing as well, because remember, he does have that high upside in the passing game. And it looks like the Dolphins are kind of doing the thing where they feature different guys depending on matchup. So, against in a game script where they were going to trail, Gaskin ended up being the guy, and he was a huge contrarian play against the Bucks. And now, against the Jags, it's a game script where you think you're going to probably be ahead more, and they were for a good part of the game until the end. So you saw more of Brown, more of Kmet. So this week, I mean, they are back home, but whatever they did last week didn't work. And when you say we can't trust Brian Flores, I feel like Dolphins ownership might be thinking the same thing. I mean, this team is a Damian Harris fumble away from being 0-6. They lost to the Jaguars, gave them their first win. So Gaskin has been a lone bright spot. You probably, if you're kind of, I mean, I don't want to say he's coaching for his job, but he might be coaching for his job over this longer term of the season. And it starts here. And so I think you go with your best players. So
yeah, I didn't even think of that, but yeah, I mean, they have been rough lately. So yeah, I agree with that. He might lean on Gaskin here. And it's worth mentioning that Gaskin, I think he dropped like a touchdown. If Tua had just led him into the end zone a little bit better, I think it was Tua's fault, but Gaskin almost caught a touchdown to salvage what was just an awful day. But other than that, Gaskin did look bad last week. But like I said, he's a bet on talent. I think he'll bounce back this week. It's an easy matchup. After this, if he doesn't perform well this week, he's sort of like the Robbie Anderson. This is the last week where I'm going to trust him in any lineups this week. Then I think it might be time to move on.
Yeah, Myles Gaskin has the life jacket on, and he's drowning in the frozen pond. He's trying to climb his way back to the top. That Miami water hasn't quite frozen yet. It's just, it's a little warm, but he's sinking fast.
Oh, he's in the frozen pond. We just have, our fishing line out there. We're trying to lift him up, but we need some help, man.
Yeah, and I was heavily considering going under on his rushing prop last week, early. And then I was like, it's too early. I'm not going to bet anything on this Jaguars. Like, I just want to stay away from that London game and just like enjoy my life. Cause I had bet on the Malcolm Brown prop the week before under, and he didn't even get a carry. And then sure enough, Myles Gaskin just completely absent from the game plan. So this week, if they post a Malcolm Brown prop or an Kmet prop, just bang the under. Cause that's what it seems to be. It's like up and down with these. That
would be the way. I don't want to go. I don't want to bet on Gaskin's over, but one way to do it is to bet on those two, their unders. That's kind of a way of betting on Gaskin, just to have a bigger workload at least.
Yeah. All right, let's go to wide receiver. Sean, who are your top 5 wideouts for week number 7?
So despite all the buys, this doesn't seem crazy. It's Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, and then DeAndre Hopkins. Welcome back to the top 5, buddy.
I mean, hey, I told you we weren't going to be fading DeAndre Hopkins. Like
he's got that touchdown upside.
Yeah, he's got the DeAndre Hopkins upside. He's DeAndre Hopkins.
He might get 4 targets again, but he might have a Mike Evans line, 3 catches for 10 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, you know why they started coming up with those adjusted yards per attempt for quarterbacks. It's like, because when you throw touchdowns, you don't need yards. Like if DeAndre Hopkins stopped catching so many touchdowns, maybe he'd need more catches to get down the field with this offense. But yeah, no, they're playing at a high level. He's actually my wide receiver 6. And maybe this will change, but right now I have Adams, Kupp in number 2. So he has Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Hill 3. Still have Deebo Samuel.
Oh yeah.
As my wide receiver 4. And that's a lot of it has to do with he gets a little extra bump because he's getting about 6% of the carries of the backfield carries.
Yeah.
And I do have Jimmy Garoppolo projected to start over Lance because it's just Lance didn't practice and Jimmy did. So I think Jimmy may be back, which obviously helps Samuel as well.
Yeah.
And then I have DJ Moore 5th, but Moore might be the guy flip flop for Hopkins because I might have to tinker down with the Panthers run pass ratio. As you mentioned, I saw that too, that Matt Rule wants to run the football more. That's not great news for DJ Moore. I mean, he's still going to be their alpha dog no matter what, but it might be enough for Hopkins to jump him here, though I am concerned about the game script for Hopkins a little more than a guy like Kyler, just because they've been spreading the ball around so much. But yeah, Hopkins is my number 6.
Nice.
Where do you have Deebo? I'm just curious, just because he's the guy that surprised me.
I was gonna say I didn't look at the outline this week. My bad, but I wanted to be surprised with your top 5, and I was so excited. I had Deebo Samuel number 6, and I was gonna see where you have him. Of course, you got him in the top 5. I wanted to have another that's your version of Jamar Chase last week. I was so jealous you had him in the top 5. That sounded fun, but I thought it was gonna be cool by having Deebo higher than you, but nope, you beat me by having him wide receiver 4. But yeah, I'm high on him as well, and it's because Jimmy G's back. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, and Chase actually, he's like fallen to 15 for me right now.
I have him 14.
Yeah, so he's that Baltimore defense, I guess, is knocking him down a little, but that seems low. I might have to knock him up. But I mean, either way, you're starting him.
We're gonna save this for the prop, but I just want to put out there I have all 3 Buccaneers receivers over Jamar Chase this week inside my top 13.
Same there. Yeah, I think 8.
Okay,
I have Evans 8. Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to know but that's obviously my prop is how are you ranking those 3 right now? It's fascinating.
Yeah, this is I'm looking at mine right now, and I see why that we're gonna go there. So let's talk DFS cheat codes. Guys you like in DFS, great values, contrarian plays, or just guys you're higher on than consensus in rankings. What you got?
So like I said earlier, I think this is the week to spend up at wide receiver. So I think just going with, Adams, Kupp, Hill certainly makes sense. But I like DJ Moore at 7,100. You can get him a discount after pretty disappointing games. I mean, 5 catches with 42 yards, no touchdowns, and then 5 catches for 73 yards, no touchdowns. We've come to expect a lot more from DJ Moore. So certainly I think he can go off this week. I think Terrace Marshall might be out. So even if, the Panthers do run more, they're still going to lean on DJ Moore, especially since, these targets going to Robbie Anderson aren't converting to anything of much value. So, I think it could be a massive game for DJ Moore here at 7,100. Some of the cheaper guys I like are Jakobi Meyers at 5,300. He's a high floor play. So maybe for cash games, still has yet to score a touchdown. I felt bad for him. He scored a touchdown last week, and of course it got called back. So, he might be worth a GPP flyer in case he does score his first touchdown ever. But I think the Pats are going to have a pretty conservative game plan of just running, Damian Harrison on the ground and peppering Jakobi Meyers the target. So again, I think this is more of a cash game play, but love him at that price tag. And then Mecole Hardman at 4,300 against the Titans. He's pretty cheap just given his massive upside. So certainly I think for GPPs, he's worth the flyer. We haven't really seen his role reduce at all since Josh Gordon started to be playing here, but that could change any given week. But I still like Hardman. He's averaged 70% routes run these 2 past weeks and put up pretty big games. Tennessee suffered a ton of injuries this week. Chris Jackson and Caleb Farley went down. So, Hardman might be a way to kind of test their cornerback depth So I like him for a potential 1 or 2 long touchdowns this week. Can never go wrong with Hardman. And then Rashod Bateman at near min price, 3,400. He is way too cheap. I think he's going to be pretty popular if Sammy Watkins is ruled out again this week. The rookie ran around 67% of the time last week, and it was a game where Lamar Jackson didn't have to throw much, so he only finished with 4 catches, 29 yards. So I think if Lamar bounces back this week, which I think he should, Bateman is a pretty good stacking partner with Lamar Jackson this week. So love him at 3,400.
Yeah, Bateman is interesting. I mean, he ran a route, 2/3 of the time. So it's really going to depend on Watkins. I think if Bateman's routes run probably only goes up if Watkins is out. If he's back, then it's going to be a little more. It's going to be dicier, I guess, to see where it all lands.
What his rostership is going to be through the roof if Watkins is out, right? Am I crazy for thinking that?
I don't know. I mean, he didn't have a great game, so maybe I think if he had a great game, like a Kadarius Toney had 7 catches that first time he was really featured, I think it would be high. I think it'll be in check. It might just be too early in the week, but because there's so many cheap running backs, I don't think you're going to need a cheap receiver. So I actually don't think his rostership will be out of control. I don't.
Got it. Okay, then I won't get cute and fade him because I think he's going to be popular then, and that would be a way to like we said. I think this week take cheap running backs, spend up at receiver. He might be a way to go cheap at receiver and get a Derrick Henry or something like that. Just kind of a way to build a different lineup than everybody else. So, but either way, love Bateman at the price tag this week.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go with, I agree with what you said about kind of paying up. I mean, this is a Tyreek Hill smash spot, in addition to Hardman. I mean, like you said, Tennessee's cornerback group is just in shambles. They're giving up the 6th most schedule adjusted receiving yards per game to number 1 wide receivers. And that number is probably only going up with Tyreek Hill on the menu this week. So and Travis Kelce got banged up last week as well in that
again for the 2nd straight game. I thought he was going to get pulled, looked bad, but he stayed in there.
So this is I think this is a Tyreek Hill spot for KC. Devontae Adams should have a bounce back as well. So Adams, Cup, Hill, those guys, love those guys. But some guys a little bit cheaper, kind of in that mid-range. Robert Woods, I think Cooper Kupp is obviously in our top 3, but Robert Woods, he could easily have that monster game this week against the Lions. I expect a couple of Rams pass catches to go off. So Robert Woods is definitely in that discussion. AJ Brown, Julio Jones looks like the more banged up of the two. AJ Brown came on big late in the game against Buffalo. I think it was 7-8 catches in the second half in that game.
It seemed like it. Yeah.
And now you have the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are kind of it sets up as a similar game script for AJ Brown. It's going to be, you're going to need to put up some points. Derrick Henry's probably going to get his, but you're only going to be able to kind of get away with not throwing the ball for so long against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're 24th in DVOA against number 1 receivers. AJ Brown's price, he probably would have been priced up a tiny bit if he was priced before the Monday night game. And then Jamar Chase, he's still only 6,200 on DraftKings. So, I mean, we're going to continue to play this guy until he gives us a reason not to, because it's been 13 or more PPR points in every single game on DraftKings so far this season. His low has been 54 yards receiving, and he's never had a game with fewer than 77 yards or a touchdown. So, his lowest scoring output was 77 yards. But he had 6 catches in that game. And then he had the same 4 catches, 97 yards last week. 54 yards was his yardage low, but he got a touchdown in that game. So, he's been one way or another, he's found a way to put up points. I think there's a low probability that he doesn't get into the end zone or catch a bunch of deep passes. So love Jamar Chase. Brandin Cooks, I think he's got to be on the radar anytime you're looking at an explosive offense on the other side, like the Cardinals. So, he's down at 6K. He's been dominating the target share in Houston. Outside of him, I mean, it's rookie like Nico Collins. It's a career special teamer like Chris Moore. It's a career just like wind sprinter Chris Conley. So Brandin Cooks should see 30+% of those targets in a game where they could need to put up I mean, 40, 50 points if they want to even have a chance. They won't, but
right.
It's great for Cooks. Chris Godwin, I know a guy we'll talk about in a sec, but he's down to 5,900 on DraftKings. The Bears, generally, when you look at their secondary, you say, okay, the weakness in the slot more so. Duke Shelley is their slot corner. I know it's not going to be straight man-to-man coverage, but Godwin's a guy I think could have a bounce back here. You want to take advantage of the pricing. And on the other side, Darnell Mooney. He's still running about on the season more routes per dropback than Allen Robinson. He's at 94%. Robinson's at 90%. And this could be a career day for Justin Fields. And they're going to set up those deep shots down the field, max protect, and let Mooney run around. And remember, he gets separation against those quality secondaries. It's just a matter of getting him the ball with the Bucs bang up secondary, with the Bucs not getting pressure and having to send extra rushers just to not get pressure. And the Bears max protecting. This sets up as a game where Mooney could clear 100 yards again. So love Mooney down in that cheap pricing tier.
Love it. And I just want to follow up when it comes to Ram stacks, because I know you're going to be pretty heavy on Matthew Stafford. You mentioned Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Those are obvious stacking partners. But like when it comes to Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, you're obviously sprinkling those two in as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I love this is a good Deshaun week. This is a good Deshaun week. The Detroit Lions are, wait for it, dead last in DVOA.
You didn't give me a chance to guess. Yeah. Dead last.
Wait for it. And so this is one of those things where it's like model breaking, because the Rams have been one of the best deep ball throwing teams in the league, and you're facing the defense that's 32nd. Like, how much worse can they be 33rd to start next week? Like, it's going to be nuts.
Possible?
Yeah.
The Houston Roughnecks jump up to 32nd.
Right.
But yeah, I think Deshaun Jackson makes sense for the Sean McVay revenge game, and saying like, see, Jared Goff, I couldn't do this when you were here kind of thing. So I think Deshaun Jackson is part of the Sean McVay revenge game stack for me. And like I always say, Van Jefferson just sitting there at 70% routes run. He's going to have some big games in the future. So he's another guy you could sprinkle in as well, along with Tyler Higbee. I just think just mixing and matching Rams pass catchers with Matthew Stafford is probably the way to go this week. But yeah, I just wanted to get those two mixed in as well here.
Love them. And what you could do if you're playing those guys, those could be lineups where you pivot away from Cooper Kupp, who, despite the fact that we love him, Adams and Hill face the bottom two worst defenses in terms of fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. So, you have guys that you can also play instead of Cooper Kupp in that price range and still play a Matthew Stafford stack or still play Rams receivers. And it could be contrarian without being, really losing any type of value there. So like that.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to make a ultra contrarian Rams stack of Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel with the Rams defense. Take that.
Yeah.
Just in case. Just one lineup like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Rams defense could score a couple of touchdowns here. I mean, Jared Goff got called out in the media too by Dan Campbell, so he might be taking a little more risks than he usually does, because he's known as a guy who doesn't get the ball down the field. He might hold on to the ball trying to make something happen. So this is
that's a great point. And just real quick, who are you going to send it back with then on the Lions side?
I mean,
does that mean Khalif Raymond? Potentially, he's throwing deep. I need to check who the deep target is now, but
TJ Hockenson. Yeah. I mean, I still like St. Brown, but Detroit. I mean, it's really going to be the backs and the tight ends, right?
Swift.
Like we're not really expecting them to like, even if the wide receivers are getting because Raymond did jump to 95% routes run.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
but it's still Khalif Raymond. So
very true. Very true.
I think I'd still lean Hockenson, because we didn't mention Tyler Higbee, and the Lions are also 32nd in DVOA against tight ends, because they're just bad against everything and everyone.
Really, but they are.
Yeah, they dropped to 32 somehow. I don't know. I guess that Tyler Conklin 3 for 71. No, what was it? No, who was it last week? Who did they play? Usoma got a touchdown. That's what it was. Usoma got a touchdown.
Where are they going to get their first win? Are they going to get a win? I'm looking at their schedule. I don't know where you would take them.
It's going to be some trap game later in the year. Probably. Yeah. Let's see. Who do they got?
Like at Denver or something. No, I don't really see any easy spots.
Coming out of the bye, in Pittsburgh. They'll get it.
No way.
Have you seen Pittsburgh play?
Yes, I have. I don't want to talk about it.
And this is still Pittsburgh. Like we're still 3 weeks away. Pittsburgh could be like Ben Roethlisberger could have thrown out his arm by then.
I guess that would be the spot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Come on. Oh, that's how all these teams. It's never the game you expect. It's usually like just some team they'll take for granted, like Pittsburgh does. They'll be like, oh, this is an easy one, and it'll just be one of those like disastrous Pittsburgh is favored by like 8 points type of situation.
Figure. The Lions will have first pick in a year where it doesn't look like there's a top quarterback. So go figure.
Yeah,
looks like we're gonna be stuck with Jared Goff for a while.
Yeah, I mean, when you want to trade Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff, you got to do it. So
yeah.
All right, let's go to the prop for wide receiver.
All right, so this is the moment we've been waiting for. So half PPR scoring. Who is going to score more points this week? Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, or Mike Evans?
I am going to go with Mike Evans. I have him 9th. I have Godwin 11th, and I have Brown 12th. Mike Evans,
Wait, so you have all three in your top 12?
Yep.
Has that ever happened before? No way.
I don't think so. And I don't feel great about it because the Bears aren't like a terrible defense. So it's not, it's not one of those situations where it's like, oh, they're all going to go off against the Bears. But it's just Tom Brady's been so good. He doesn't run the ball. So he's maximizing the dropbacks. And these receivers are maximized, without Gronk in there. It's just everything's kind of maximized for these Bucs receivers. So, but I'll go Evans because he's got the highest touchdown upside. And that's kind of what it's been most of the year. Evans can get his like 2 touchdowns, even if he only gets like 40 yards. So I'll go Evans. What about you?
I think that makes sense. If you're making a real bet here out of the 3, it's got to be Evans, just given his ceiling. But like it's hard to say who has a higher floor now, Chris Godwin or Antonio Brown. I mean, Antonio Brown looks like he's back in his prime at like 26 years old on the Steelers now. It's insane. And he's still not seeing more than 70% routes run. So I think if either like Chris Godwin or Mike Evans were to miss any time, would he be like in your top 5? Like I'm just trying to think with his usage going up. Like he's that good right now. So I'm going with Antonio Brown here.
Yeah, I think he probably would be top 5 because he's running around like 70% of routes right now. So you bumped it up to 90% with Tom Brady.
And Tyler Johnson playing 70%, maybe like Jalen Darden, like he would just get way more targets for sure.
Yeah. No, I like it. I for this game, I think I would still go Godwin over Brown though. That's because I'm looking at Chicago and kind of where they defend the field the best and the worst. They're number 4 in DVOA to the throws on the left side of the field. They're 26th over the middle, and then they're 22nd to the right side. Now, Antonio Brown tends to see the majority of his targets, like 24 of his 42 targets have been to the left side. So that's where Chicago's been top 5. Godwin has seen like the most targets over the middle. So I think him, but then Mike Evans to the right side has been the guy. So I mean, unless and they will move around, but just based on kind of where they've been seeing their targets thus far, I still think it's this could be a Godwin week if it's not Mike Evans. So we can go head to head there.
Yeah, love it. I mean, can't go wrong with any of these guys right now, honestly. But yeah, for the record, I think this is the first time ever I've seen 3 receivers on the same team, like in wide receiver 1 territory. It's just absolutely insane.
All right, let's go to tight end. Who you got for your top 5 at tight end in week 7?
So I got Travis Kelce, no surprise there. Darren Waller, maybe that's a surprise that he's still my tight end too. Mark Andrews, number 3, then Kyle Pitts, and then Dallas Goedert, finally inside my top 5. I've been waiting for years to do this. Just give me this moment. He might end up being like tight end 6 or 7, but right now he is my tight end 5, baby.
That's so disgusting. Yeah, I mean, just Dallas Goedert. I mean, he might. What if he's
disgusting? What's disgusting about?
He might
Dallas
be COVID.
Goedert?
Like, remember Cam Newton came back from COVID and he couldn't score. Like, that's scary. Dallas Goedert, like
yeah, like we need to see. He's healthy and he comes back, but just without Zach Ertz. And I will say, just like last week, Jack Stoll and Noah Togiai or whoever didn't factor in at all. Yeah. So Dallas Goedert's gonna see 90% routes run in this offense. Like sign me up. And it's a thin week at tight end anyway. So that's, I mean, don't give me crap. There's not much to choose from, but he is just
what
barely
would this podcast be if I didn't give you crap?
He's barely inside the top 5, but I still, I have TJ Hawkinson and Higbee and Gesicki breathing down his back. So anything can happen before Sunday.
No, I like it. Dallas Goedert's been your guy for a minute, and this is the time. This is like you've been waiting for this I've been waiting for years, really.
Years. Right? Remember, like Derrick Henry. I think when we first started doing these pods, Derrick Henry was like DeMarco Murray's backup, or no, Dion Lewis. They signed Dion Lewis. I was so pissed about that. So just give me this moment. This is 2 years in the making for Dallas Goedert to be unleashed. So he's my tight end 5. Damn it.
I'm not there yet. I do have him in the top 10, but
good.
Yeah, just I mean, with the COVID thing, I think is a real concern. He's also been one of the lower targeted in terms of percentage wise, man versus zone, and Raiders play a ton of zone. So Devonta Smith has kind of been that guy. So he's my tight end 8. So it's not like, I'm right there. It's just
they're probably all within like 0.3 points, right?
It's
pretty tight outside of the top 3 or 4. Yeah, I would say outside of the top 3, it's pretty much like a 6-way tie.
Kyle Pitts the benefit of the doubt after the big game. I got Kelsey, Waller, Andrews, Pitts. Still got TJ Hawkinson 5th. Again, it's a matchup where they're going to be 15.5 point underdogs.
Yeah.
I just think he'll get enough looks to still be in that top 5. I'm not bailing on him just yet.
No, and I mean, we were kind of questioning him last week, but he bounced back, right? He had like 10 catches or 10 targets.
Yeah, he had 74 yards.
74 yards. So he's back. Yeah. So I'll probably be there once I actually like go through and do all my projections. But yeah, right now Goddard's number 5 by a hair.
All right, who do you like? Who do you like for your DFS cheat code?
Obviously, just throw this out there: Dallas Goedert, 4,600. Not much to say there. I already said all I need to say about Dallas Goedert. Obviously, we want to make sure he's back after COVID and healthy, but I think he'll be ready to go and ready to step up finally without Zach Ertz. And then our boy Ricky Seals-Jones. I mean, come on, he's 3,700 still. So I mean, he's just a free square, it seems like right now. Last week he had over 90% routes run. So keep plugging him in until he gets over 4K. He's worth every penny. And then just going way down the list right now, Cole Kmet at 3K. I haven't really been a big Cole Kmet guy ever. So this is newsworthy, but I think he's worth, dart throw at Tampa Bay. We're high on Justin Fields this week. So he's been running a healthy routes run rate over 70% pretty much all season here. So if Justin Fields has a good game, Cole Kmet might catch a touchdown and a handful of passes. So sign me up at 3K on a few teams this week.
Is Cole Kmet just like Adam Troutman? Like
I wouldn't go that far.
It just seems there
hasn't been passing yards to go around. There hasn't been
Cole Kmet production to go around. Though his career high is 49 yards. And
I've never been a Cole Kmet guy.
Yeah.
So this is the one time you'll ever hear me mention him. Just like remember David Montgomery. I think you and I
we were way down in him for that rookie year. Yeah.
For a couple, and then last year we were on him, but same thing with Cole Kmet. Never been a big Cole Kmet guy. If there were ever a time to take Cole Kmet, it's this week though. Calling it now. Especially on a thin week like this. Come on, man.
I do agree, but I don't agree because I'm just not going there.
We know Jimmy Graham's not really stealing much work anymore, so we have that going for us.
Actually, the last 2 weeks in this new Bill Lazor offense, Jimmy Graham has run a season high 38% of routes.
How many targets?
None, I believe, but Cole Kmet's also 63 and 70%. That's 2 of his 3 lowest for the season. So it's frustrating. I know a lot of people were higher on Cole Kmet. I just haven't seen anything to really prove it, but I do agree. I think just based on the fact that Justin Fields could have a career day, that's more where I'm looking. I still I think it would be Mooney and Robinson.
I'm 100% behind you on Mooney. Like he's the better play. But this is just kind of like a contrarian way to invest in Justin Fields this week for sure.
Yeah. I was going to mention Seals-Jones. That's really the cheat code for me in terms of just the price. Green Bay is 26th in DVOA on targets to the tight end position. So I think with Seals-Jones, I always talk about this with tight ends outside of that elite tier. if you're looking for value, you just got to kind of go by the routes, because you just need guys who are going to be on the field. Most tight ends block at least 15-20% of the time. So if they can hit like 80% plus routes run per drop back, you're putting yourself in position for like an elite game. Ricky Seals-Jones, 82% routes per drop back, taking over for Logan Thomas 3 weeks ago, 88% 2 weeks ago, 92% last week. So he's been hasn't been pass blocking, just straight up every time they're dropping back, essentially he is running a route. And we saw him benefit from a busted coverage last week against Kansas City. And that's what happens when you have all these routes. You get those opportunities. So love Seals-Jones. I think he's the guy. With those amount of routes, would you say that he's in that price tag, he's cash game viable at this point?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't take much
right
at that but he has the routes. He's getting targets. He's always been pretty talented. I always thought he was underutilized, but he's playing, just massive playing time. So that does give him a high floor that you want for cash games and then spend up elsewhere. But I had a real quick question for you. It's when Logan Thomas does return, how do you think they're going to sort this out? Because both of them kind of, thrive on the playing time, but if it becomes sort of a 50-50 timeshare, neither are going to be playable, right? They're going to cap each other's upside.
Yeah, I think Logan Thomas would just get his role back.
Yeah, he'll go right back to 80%.
Yeah, he's very good. They love it, and they actually like Thomas as like a blocker, like a complete football player.
Okay.
So, granted, we don't know, health permitting. If health is an issue and they want to cap his snaps for health reasons, sure. Yeah. But if it's just like they're both 100%. Remember, if Seals-Jones would get like one route, like when Thomas was healthy, and we've seen Seals-Jones have big games before. Remember with the Cardinals and stuff like that. So it's not like he was a secret and he's just now coming into his own. I think they knew what they had with him, so I would still expect Thomas to get his. Yeah,
like if somebody's stashing Logan Thomas on their bench and Hunter Henry is available, would you recommend that they just stand pat on Logan Thomas? That's where I'm going with this. It's what's.
Yeah, probably. I would probably just. Whatever I needed to get through the weeks, okay, because we still don't know when Logan Thomas is coming back exactly. What was it? What was it? What kind of injury was it? I forget. It was a hamstring. It's a hamstring, so those can linger. Week 8 I think is the earliest he can come back, but we don't know exactly. Is he going to be ready by then? So it's just do what you need to do at tight end. You could drop Logan Thomas, and I don't know if people will pick him up. He's also on IR. A lot of leagues have IR slots nowadays, so. You probably just stash him either way, but yeah, I would just do what I needed to do to win the week and not worry about it. Cause he's still going to be kind of like tight end 8, 9, 10, 11 in that, the same range of Seals-Jones really, in terms of ranking. So
all right, that makes sense. I just thought maybe Seals-Jones earned a big enough role when he comes back, but I can get that.
Yeah. You could be right. I know they like Thomas, I guess. That's the one thing I know. All right. And one other guy I wanted to mention, kind of touched on it, but Tyler Higbee. The Lions are 32nd, dead last in DVOA against the tight end position. They'll play some two deep safety, and we know Tyler Higbee. They love those games with the two deep safeties for Tyler Higbee. That's where he can do some work. So I think this is a spot. He's still running around at 80% of dropbacks, which is also very good, very, very good for tight ends. And he's cheaper. He's even cheaper than your boy Dallas Goedert this week. So, like him in that spot as well. So Higbee and Seals-Jones, two guys that you can make a case that you can play them in cash games this week, just given their price tag, given the matchup, and given the fact that there's a lot of variance at tight end. So when you can pay down, usually want to take that opportunity to do so. And Andrews, I think he jumped 1K on DraftKings from last week, or 800 to 1K from a week ago. So yeah, he was 5,200, so $800. So that's getting dicey, even though I like Andrews a lot this week too. All right, let's talk about the prop. Who you got for tight end?
So this is a prop that's up on Prize Picks right now, but wanted to talk about Darren Waller real quick. So over under 59.5 receiving yards. He hasn't gone over this in 4 games now. So are you buying or selling on Darren Waller?
I am going over. I still have him in the mid 60s. I'm not going to overreact to a few games. He's still getting generally the usage that we want. I mean, he's on the field running around about 90% of the time. He's had no fewer than 4 catches in any game still no fewer than 45 yards in any game. So when you see a high floor like that in catches and yards, I think you can kind of write off some of the variance where he's kind of just staying a little bit below his normal outcome to what we expect. I think he spoiled us to start the year with that 10 catch 105-yard game, but this is still a guy who's been extremely consistent. Philadelphia is going to play a lot of quarters coverage, 4 safeties deep. I think, they'll probably want to get the ball to Waller in those kind of coverages, and he can find an open spot kind of in that middle level, not necessarily super underneath, but kind of intermediate range of the field. So yeah, I'll go over. What about you?
So my raw projections have it at 60. So, my median for him would be around like 54, 55. So I'll lean under here. And it's nothing really against him. It's just, a guy like, Hunter Renfrow stepping up this year is taking away some targets from him. Certainly, like Henry Ruggs breaking out this year hurts his value bit because, whenever Henry Ruggs catches the ball downfield, that takes away a methodical driver. They would have given Waller a couple targets, or even just Ruggs going down the field and drawing a deep pass interference call, like things like that can eat into Waller's target share or just his yardage total. So I'm going to lean under here as well. But like you said, he has such a high floor. It's always risky, taking the under, but I think we'll have to go that way here.
I actually like Waller Renfrow in this matchup because I was thinking about exactly what you said with Ruggs kind of taking those deep shots, and Bryan Edwards even has done it as well.
Yeah.
So remember, Philly is almost exclusively zone. They play that Brandon Staley, like quarters coverage. They rarely play man-to-man coverage. So if you look at the Raiders versus man coverage, according to Pro Football Focus, their yardage leader, Henry Ruggs, 279, Bryan Edwards, 253. Then Waller, 192, Renfrow, 115. But against zone coverage, Waller and Renfrow are now the top 2 with just over 160 yards. And Ruggs' production is almost cut in half. Edwards' production, Edwards only has 38 yards versus zone coverage, whereas Edwards has 253 versus man coverage. So this is the kind of game where you're not seeing those deep shots. You're seeing that kind of like methodical, move it up the field, get a first down, get 3 more downs, you know what I mean? So I think this is a good reception game. So maybe if you don't like the yards, this might be a game where Waller gets 7-8 catches. Same thing for Renfrow. I think this is a game because we think of Renfrow as a guy who can beat man coverage, but really he's still that kind of slot receiver that can, he kind of finds a spot in the zones. He's that stick China route it can work against man coverage, but generally it's going to be these two guys against the zones. And Philly is just such a zone heavy team. So I always kind of look out for that on this kind of matchup.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that was, if you remember, the infamous Dalton Schultz eruption game that was on the under. Yeah. It was against the Eagles. OJ Howard had a great game last week, 6 catches. Ian Thomas had 4 catches for 40 yards. So if you convert that to Darren Waller stats, that's like 20 catches for 150. Anytime Ian Thomas can put up 4 catches against anybody, I pay attention. So yeah, I could see based on the matchup, maybe I should jack up Waller's stats a bit.
Yeah, it's always tough, with trying to use these like granular stats to make projections. But I think when you're kind of leaning one way or another, because you said you had it right on 60. So like if that changed the way you were looking at the prop, I think it's worth like looking into.
Actually, they held George Kittle and Travis Kelce in check. Those are 2 pretty good tight ends. So it's always tough projecting tight ends anyways. But yeah, Darren Waller, I'm probably staying away from this prop.
All right. Now comes the portion of the show where we build a main slate lineup. We'll take turns throwing in players, and hopefully they're not ruled out before game time. But we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a DraftKings and a FanDuel, because I know a lot of you guys play FanDuel as well. So we'll do one of each. Let's start with DraftKings, though, as we usually do. And I'll give you first pick.
All right. Sean. I will start what you want to do, and I'm down with it. Let's start building this Ram stack. So I'm going Matthew Stafford at QB.
All right. Matthew Stafford, 7,100 on DraftKings. You know what? We're going to play the matchups here. I've been kind of trying to figure out, who's going to blow up against what kind of schemes. This seems like a good game for Tyler Higbee, who's been a little bit quiet. And I know everyone's going to want some of these other Rams receivers. So let's go with the contrarian Ram stack like we talked about, and I'll throw in Tyler Higbee at 4,500 at tight end. Sorry, no Dallas Goedert in this one.
All right, that was an interesting curveball because I thought I was going to use TJ Hawkinson as the send it back player here, but I'm going to go with the guy I mentioned earlier in the show, and that's DeAndre Swift.
Okay.
And I think that we kind of need it to be a close enough game where he's involved late in the fourth quarter. So I do like having him as the line we send it back with. I already mentioned, Jared Goff loves to dump it off to him when they're trailing by 7 or more. So I think he's the guy that I want to send it back with in this Rams line stack.
All right. Let's go to wide receiver here. And a guy that, just given the game script, another one of these huge spreads, I think could come up with a massive game. And he's $200 cheaper than Jamar Chase. So maybe he doesn't get quite as much ownership. And he's $100 more expensive than Godwin. So, and that's Brandin Cooks. So let's go Brandin Cooks and hope he gets a little bit overlooked this week just because he's on such a bad team at 6K.
Let's see. So we have, how are we doing on money?
We got Stafford, Swift, Cooks, and Higbee. We have 26.4K, an average of 5,280 per player. And we need a running back, 2 wideouts, a flex, and a defense. And the way we'll do this is whoever goes first will get the flex. So I would say leave the flex, and that'll be your call with the last pick of this.
Got it. Let's go with Darnell Mooney here.
Ooh, I like it.
Because I've been banging the table for him for weeks now, and we obviously can't take Justin Fields in this lineup. He's the guy that we're kind of banking on Justin Fields to have a career game and go off here. So love Mooney at 4,600. Yeah, so we still have some flexibility with the rest of the lineup here.
Yeah, absolutely. I am going to go. So we have 5,450 average between a running back, wide receiver, flex, and defense. So let's get this defense out of the way so that we know.
Thank you for having Rodgers this week. Yeah,
I usually start with defense just so I know how much I kind of have left over. So at defense this week, I will go with
Cardinals are going to be the highest
chalk,
roster, right?
For
sure. Yeah.
The Cardinals will be the chalk. Oh, we got the Patriots sitting there at 3,400 against the Jets, who are dead last in fantasy points allowed to opposing defenses. They've already gotten shut out. So let's go with the Patriots. If there's a chance we get a shutout with the Cardinals. If it's not the Cardinals, I think the Patriots give us the best shot probably. So let's go Patriots 3,400. That leaves us an average of 6,133 for a running back, a wide receiver, and a flex.
Yeah, I was probably going to go there with the Pats. They're 300 more than the Cardinals, so hopefully that lowers their rostership percentage a bit here. So let's see. Man, this is tough. There's so many running backs in this range I do like, but let's go with Darrell Williams here. A way to kind of invest in the Chiefs. I don't know if you want to go Tyreek Hill or anything like that, but I think take Darrell Williams here, kind of hope for another repeat performance, but I liked what I saw last week, and I think he's worth it at this price. And like I said last week, he has 2 touchdown potential. We saw that last week, so kind of like sticking with him here.
Yep. So we have Stafford, Swift, Williams, Cooks, Mooney, Higbee, Patriots, and we have 6,300 average left over. You know what? Since you went Williams, I'll go with a player that's exactly 6,300, and that's AJ Brown. So we could get some correlation here with the positive game script for Williams.
Nice.
Means the Titans could be throwing. We're fading Derrick Henry in this lineup because we don't have enough money. So let's go AJ Brown at 6,300.
Yeah, we're kind of fading. It's kind of scary to say this, but we're kind of fading Henry, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce. But you got to do what you got to do in these big GPPs. So love the AJ Brown call. He did look really good last week. So let's see. So 6,300
for a flex.
Yeah. Oh man, Robert Woods, $100 too much.
Your boy Antonio is there.
Our boy
Patterson, Jamar Chase, Josh Jacobs, Chuba Hubbard is there as well. Mark Andrews, Godwin, that Kyle Pitts. Those are the guys we're kind of choosing between where you would leave between 1 and like 500-600 on the table.
That's brutal. I'm thinking Chuba Hubbard just based on the projected game script. He could see a massive increase. Yeah, I do. Man, I was tempted to go Antonio Brown there or Jamar Chase, but who do you think has a higher ceiling this week? I think
Jamar Chase. But no, actually, no, I'd say because I have Chuba as a top 6 running back, and I have Chase. He's in wide receiver like 15. And so, yeah, Chuba. He could get 25 touches.
Yeah. No, like he's probably more likely to get multiple touchdowns. I mean, he's going to be touching the football way more. So, yeah, I think Hubbard has the higher ceiling. And, yeah, I'm going to buy into this Matt Rule coach speak a lot here and just go with Chuba Hubbard.
I like it. So we got Matthew Stafford. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that gives us $200 left over.
Yeah. Always want to have at least 100, but like to have more than 100 even.
Even like 500 is
fine.
Yeah.
Like we could have gone to like Jalen Waddle or something if we were really getting crazy. But Matthew Stafford, DeAndre Swift, Darrell Williams, Chuba Hubbard in the flex, Brandin Cooks, Darnell Mooney, AJ Brown at wide receiver, Tyler Higbee at tight end, Patriots D, 200 left over. Well, hopefully you guys gain something from that. Even if you're not making the exact lineup, just kind of how we went about building it. You can always check fantasylabs.com for our correlations tool, which you can see more about, which positions correlate with what and whatnot. But that's going to wrap it up for the week 7 Fantasy Flex main slate pod. You can find Sean on Twitter at @_oddsmaker. You can find me at Chris Raybon. You can find us at those same handles in the Action Network app. Be sure to visit actionnetwork.com for our fantasy football rankings, projections, and content, and fantasylabs.com for our DFS content, tools, and models. Until next time, let's get this money.